Café and Networking Podcast promotes successful business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people throughout the world from my podcast studio in Brazil. And today we talk with Scherrie Prince, and she's joining us from Flowood, Mississippi. Scherrie Prince, an attorney, asset protection coach, teaches entrepreneurs how to merge business plans with estate planning to create a moat around their assets. Scherrie is also podcast host at Play Big Faster podcast. So Scherrie, what effective proactive measures can entrepreneurs take to safeguard their assets and legacy?
Definitely. The first thing that I share with the people, Tom, and thank you so much for having me, is that one, you need to have a basic understanding of personal finance, how to budget, what your assets look like. And secondly, you need to develop a plan for those.
First, you have to have the assets.
Yeah, well, yes. Assets, yes, but even when you talk about asset protection, it's part estate planning, and if you have a business, part business planning.
Right.
So understanding those assets and then putting a plan together for those.
And then you sit down with your clients and work through that?
Well, two different things. So I'm an attorney in Mississippi. I'm licensed there. And so I give legal advice to people within the state, but also I'm an asset protection coach, which allows me to help people craft plans all over the world. So you don't have to be limited to Mississippi.
And that's true. And I'm sure, and I'm here in Brazil, the legal regards to asset planning could vary state to state, as in the States, and it can vary country to country, even here in Brazil. And it's constantly changing. Seems that governments are changing things, so you really have to be update.
Well, one thing that I try to teach people, I teach you principles, and principles work for anyone, regardless of who you are and where you live. So basics, if you have a home, what are your plans for passing your home in the event that you expire? If you have liquid assets, what are your plans and what are your options? And those things really don't change regardless of who you are and where you live.
But it could change is how the government wants to handle that once you've passed.
Well, each government has a plan if you do not have a will, trust, or similar document in place. So part of it is, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Or do you have another mechanism for transferring those assets? And if you don't, most governments do have some sort of statutory authority that will tell you what will happen in the event that you pass away.
Well, here, and I see that in Brazil, because most people don't have a will. Because obviously there are mechanisms that say that if one passes and how things happen. But most people don't have the will. They just let it happen and then find an executor and then they have to work through that.
And that is so sad. I'm not a huge proponent for wills, but I do love the concept of a trust. And there are so many different types of trust. And with a trust, there may be a little bit more expense up front, but if you work that out during your lifetime, you don't have to go pay a barrister or an attorney after you pass away. Your heirs don't. Thousands of dollars if you do it during your lifetime.
And then the trust just carries on after you've gone.
If you've set it up properly, it
Right.
definitely does.
So back to your coaching. So that's the essence of what you're helping and sharing wherever your clients are.
Anywhere in the world. I teach you these principles. I show you how to actually work with a team. So right now, you may have an insurance agent, a financial advisor, a banker, or an attorney. I'm not trying to replace any of those people, but what I'm doing, I'm building your team and I'm building the process that you use to put a moat around your assets by, letting you know these are the questions to ask your banker. These are the things you need to look for. And as you purchase new assets, these are the things you need to check off your box.
In today's world, things are moving so quickly. And in the global economy and post-pandemic, we have people working everywhere. And people may have assets they don't really consider assets. You have startups. And I realize that many persons who've started up a company, they don't realize what they have. They don't realize the worth of what they have.
Exactly. One thing that I see that's often overlooked, intellectual property. What is What is your trademark worth?
Right.
I tell people all the time, if I had just one asset, I would want to own Michael Jordan's rights to the intellectual property in the Air Jordan
Right.
logo.
Right.
That is $1 billion IP asset. And so, maybe you have a restaurant that's, popular in your town. And when you pass on, your family might not want to take it over, but you can sell it to someone who can use the goodwill that you've built up over time to carry that restaurant on. That has a value. It's not just the real estate.
Right. And so let's say, I don't want to say the sooner the better, but the earlier the better, the younger the better.
The earlier the better. For those who don't know my story, my mother passed away when she was 36 years old. And so she left me and my brother, but who knew at 36, and at that time she had spent 3 years in a nursing home. So who thinks about their early 30s? They need long-term care insurance.
Right.
They need to name a guardian for their minor children. They need resources to care for their minor children once they're no longer here. So definitely the earlier the better.
Very good. So how can our listeners find you, Scherrie?
The best way to reach me is LinkedIn. At Scherrie Speaks, and that's SCHERRIE Speaks, SPEAKS.
Very good. They can find you on LinkedIn, connect, and get in touch with you at your site.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for being here and sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
And again, for our listeners, it's Scherrie Prince, SCHERRIE. Her last name is Prince, PRINCE. Find her on LinkedIn where it's Scherrie Speaks, SCHERRIESPEAKS. Scherrie Prince. Café Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information at FOCUSMI.com. Talk to Tom, talk to the world. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.